Hey, Garrett.
Yeah, yes.
Did you hear that you can't play Baby It's Cold Outside on the radio anymore?
It's about a bunch of pedophiles.
But you know what you can play on the radio?
Skeletons by Stevie
Skeletons
Wonder.
by Stevie Wonder exclusively.
Last Christmas, I gave you my skeleton.
That's not at all what that song is. Well, Garrett, it is officially Christmas, and for Christmas we decided to put on our favorite Christmas movie.
What movie's that, sir?
Die Hard.
Oh,
The one and only
movie?
Christmas movie. The one you watch on Christmas. Because it is a Christmas movie. No debate.
But Alex, Die Hard isn't Christmas.
And to anyone who says that, I have only two words for you. You're an idiot.
Do the words F-O mean anything to you? Merp, merp.
Well, welcome back to the Digital Drive-In. Once again, you filthy animals, for a very special Christmas-themed episode. My name is Alex. I'm joined, as always, by my illustrious co-host, Garrett DiNardo.
Hi.
And of course, as we, I guess, already said, we'll be talking about our favorite Christmas movie of all time. The best, the one, the only, Die Hard.
No, it's not the only. There's like 40
Yeah,
sequels.
You're right. But there's only one, Die Hard. One.
Until they reboot it in a couple of years with just the name Die Hard.
Oh, just the name McClane. That's what it'll be. Boy.
Nakatomi Plaza.
And now, or just Nakatomi. That's what it'll be. And it will no longer be just John McClane. It'll be him and like a bunch of ethnically diverse heroes.
I can't
Who
wait till
saved the
John
day.
McClane is played by a woman. Jane McClane.
Okay, how dare you? Feminism
But the
is a
thing-
very sensitive topic, Garrett.
The thing is, it can't be a muscular woman. It either has to be an extremely obese woman that has really bad body odor, or it has to be like an extremely thin woman that like has to like throw 300-pound guys like down the stairs and beat the shit out of hand to hand.
They're pretty good.
Yeah.
Now, I know what you're saying, Alex. Die Hard ain't no damn Christmas movie. I'm going to go home and I'm going to watch Ron Howard's How the Grinch Stole Christmas for the 17th time. And you know what I'll say to you? That's fair, because that movie's pretty good. Jim Carrey's pretty rad in it. So you go ahead and do you, and go ahead and turn this podcast off and go and watch The Grinch.
No,
And
I've
think
never
I'm
heard you
going-
say any of this.
I'm going to leave this podcast, I believe, right now. I'm not going to finish the rest of the recording, and I'm going to instead go home and I'm going to go ahead and watch Ron Howard's Grinch film. Does that sound like a good deal to you, Garrett?
Okay, bye.
But what makes Die Hard a Christmas film? That's the real question as we get more and more off topic on this shit show of a podcast we call the Digital Drive-In.
It takes place during Christmas. That's the
It does. It takes place
setting.
on Christmas, which of course automatically makes it a Christmas movie. No, but
Christmas.
everything around it is Christmas. Okay, it's a story about a hero saving the day and being a good guy, having to thwart evil, much like other Christmas movies where a good guy has to thwart evil. It has Christmas music. They talk about Santa. There's guns.
Yeah, that's
Alan
Christmas in
Rickman is
America.
there. John McClane jumps off of a building at one point.
Yeah, so you could say like a bearded guy in a suit.
Comes in and gives all the presents to the people in terms of bullets in the face.
He knows who's been bad or good. He's making a list.
Yeah, he's taking all the money from the vault.
He's sneaking in a place that he's normally not allowed to go into.
Okay. And Bruce Willis is Jesus. Rising from the dead
Like a phoenix.
like a phoenix. No, but I know it's a hot debatable topic whether or not Die Hard is a Christmas movie. And
What
I
does the
say
clothing
if Home
store
Alone,
hot topic have to do?
if Home Alone is a Christmas movie, so is this. They both take place on Christmas. Neither of them actually have. Well, I mean, Home Alone does have Santa's.
So, like, what the fuck are you talking about? He literally talks to Santa Claus.
This is Christmas.
Wow, I've never heard anyone completely make all the points that it goes against it. Okay.
Yeah, some would say that's the intention, Garrett.
Mm.
Or is it? I'm just making up the shit show as we go along, and we're so far off the rails now. I don't even know how to get it back on track.
So, hey, what do you think about the casting of Die Hard?
Okay, we'll just go down the bullet point list. That's how we'll do it.
Do you think that someone who's broken their arm and it was put in a cast would enjoy this movie?
What do you mean by that?
This casting.
Oh my god.
They can't all be winners, and it's not how I get paid for this.
I mean, it's mostly losers on this podcast.
Well, you edited out all my good jokes.
That's not true.
Uh-huh.
All the excellent ones.
I had dozens of minutes of quality material.
Countless minutes.
Countless. I mean, it's like there were so few, nobody could even count them.
Exactly. But as for the casting, who's in this movie, Garrett?
Like, what if you're going to make an action film in 1988? Is Bruce Willis the first guy that you think of? You know, the moonlighting guy who's known for comedy. Is he the first person you would think of for an action?
Probably. Not.
Gosh. Yeah, my jokes are bad, but that one was gold.
Now, could you imagine if like Sylvester Stallone was...
Drop it, dickhead, it's the police. No, that's a terrible Sylvester Stallone.
I am the law. What about? Like,
I mean, if you have, well, first off, his accent would be even heavier than the terrorist accents. But if you have a roided up guy, you know, that like towers over everybody else, it would, you know, of course he's gonna kick everybody's ass. But you have like a balding guy that is just wearing like a wife beater shirt and no shoes. You're like, there's no way that guy's gonna win.
Yeah, exactly. He's the perfect everyman. Because the average audience can just project themselves onto him instead of having to look at like an Arnold Schwarzenegger type. Until
eventually through the sequels, they completely force his character to become a superhero.
Yeah, well, we're not going to talk about those today.
Oh, sorry.
Asshole. Although, I mean, mostly in the fourth and the fifth one, he's a superhero, I would say. The third one, he's still kind of a man. I don't talk about the second one. I'm just kidding. It's pretty good. But of course, Bruce Willis. Now, you were talking earlier about other people that were up for this role, right?
Yeah, it was originally like through the contract they had to offer it to Frank Sinatra because it was like basically.
How old would he have been at this point?
I mean, like 70s, maybe 60s, 70s, something like that. Really up there. He was retired,
right?
But it was something like he had the rights to the books, I guess, maybe for like previous movies he had made that was like either a similar character or something like that. So he had the rights to it. But they were hoping he would pass, and he did. So.
Well, that's then they offered them to hope that he was going to die.
Not die. Pass on the film.
Not
pass out of existence.
But yeah, could you imagine just 70-year-old Frank Sinatra in this film, running around, going down to the coast and having a few laughs?
It would be great.
It would actually be pretty good. I would like to see it. No, but then you saying how they passed it around to a bunch of other action stars, everybody passed on it. Did you say that?
I did not. I was looking to see if they actually had a list on IMDb.
Okay.
But I am not finding it in my scanning. I thought it would be one of the first ones. So.
Well, you've let me down again.
Well, it was everybody.
Okay.
Like anyone you could think of that was an action star turned it down.
Yeah, which is pretty crazy considering obviously how well beloved this movie is now.
Yeah, it was like Schwarzenegger, Stallone, Mel Gibson, Harrison Ford. It's like every like action star in the 80s. You know, and it's not like, this was like a first time director or anything. It's it's literally John McTiernan, who's the guy who directed Predator.
Yeah, exactly. But like, why? Why do you think that was? Do you think they just thought it was too mundane of an action film? It was too simplistic?
I'm not. Maybe I mean because this was before Terminator 2 came out,
Yeah,
so I don't know if like maybe the budget because a lot of it is like confined to indoors and
right.
in office spaces. Maybe they thought that there's no chases. There really isn't like nudity in it.
Really quickly, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's like there's like an explosion, but it's kind of like at the end. So they might have looked at it more as like a towering inferno, like thriller, and they didn't know maybe how it could become an action movie.
Right, right. Yeah,
That's the
it's
only thing I
certainly
can think of.
interesting though.
Yeah,
And then of course it gets passed on down to Bruce Willis, like we said earlier, who picks it up and it very quickly becomes an action star from it, right? But I can't see this movie really being the way it is without him at all.
yeah. You kind of have to have the wisecracking every man
Yeah,
overcoming the odds, kind of
yeah.
being a nobody.
Somebody
Yeah.
who absolutely cannot take on the henchmen in one-to-one fights, but has to outsmart them at every turn, but gets his ass kicked at every single opportunity as well. Because John McClane gets the shit kicked out of him in this movie.
Yeah.
He's like slammed around and he steps on glass. It's crazy. He's got no shoes through the whole thing. That's one of my favorite parts, I think, is just the fact that he has no shoes thing.
Yeah. So apparently in the original script, it was supposed to take place over 3 days.
Okay.
But he just
Which wouldn't really make that too much sense.
no.
But
So he decided to take place over a single night instead. Which
what I think is better. How would John McClane have time to like sleep? Be like, all right, I got to save them all, but tomorrow.
well, and not just that, it's like so like no one comes into work on those days, or
Yeah.
the police
Yeah.
didn't notice something was going on, or yeah.
That'd be crazy. But back to casting too. There's some other roles I think in this film that are incredibly well cast. Obviously, the supreme one being Alan Rickman as Hans Gruber, sort of one of the all-time greats of action
And
movie villains, I would say.
and this is his first Hollywood movie.
Yeah, which is certainly something with how beloved he is, from Harry Potter or Galaxy Quest or what have you. To see him get his start and to command the screen and everything he's in. He obviously coming over from Britain, he was doing a lot of stuff over there. But he's very, very commanding in this movie, and it's one of the reasons I continue to go back to it, other than it just being excellent in every other way. I think that Alan Rickman's portrayal of Gruber is one of the most excellent things in this entire film.
I think having Reginald Vell Johnson, the guy that was Carl Winslow in Family Matters, being the policeman on the ground while Bruce Willis is in the tower. The camaraderie or the chemistry that they have between each other actually is really important in the film, and I think having a lesser actor or maybe someone that couldn't be a character actor play that role, it wouldn't have been pulled off as well.
Yeah, you almost, especially with this Family Matters ties, have that immediate connection of like he needs to get back to his family. You keep thinking that he has a family and you don't want him to die when there's explosions going on or bullets are flying or anything like that. You get really, really scared. And I agree on the camaraderie aspect. It's a really awesome relationship between McClane and Powell, and they don't even meet until the last few minutes of the movie face to face, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah, and it's like then having the FBI agents and the other police chief kind of not being on their side. So it's not just a simple good guy versus villain film. It has like good guy and another good guy know what's right, and some of the other air quotes good guys are doing it the wrong way and don't care about losing lives, and then the bad guys are out for themselves and doing it for other things too. And then you have like the slimy guy that calls and tries to deal with Alan Rickman, the salesman.
Yeah, and then get shot in the
Yes,
head.
it's like having those like uber slimy guys and they get killed off, so you can actually applaud when people die throughout the film. I think that makes it also really well done because you kind of have people to root against as well.
A lot of the henchmen have interesting designs to them.
They stick out and they're different.
Yeah, which obviously John uses down sort of names, I guess. Is that this movie? Yeah.
Did you watch Die Hard ever?
I've seen it. Yeah, I just forget that part, that one specific part, asshole. I mean, you're not exactly helping me here. You're just fucking quiet.
I'm letting you dig your own grave, man. What are you...
Nope. I edit this. I ain't digging shit. We ain't live, motherfucker.
You have the guy from Walker, Texas Ranger as the black hacker.
Yeah. And I like the relationship that John has with Argyle as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Driver at the start. That's a really a fun way to start the movie. And then you cut back to it throughout. And
yeah, what song is he listening to?
He's listening to Skeletons by Stevie Wonder. And every single scene that they cut back to in the entire movie, they cut back into the limo, and he's still listening to that song every single time. And throughout the entire movie, they keep cutting back, and it's always that song. It's always that one every single time. But whatever. I went out to the coast. I had a few laughs. It's fine. There's that really fantastic scene where John McClane comes across Gruber, and he doesn't know because they've never seen each other face to face that it's him. But Hans knows. He definitely picks up on it, and he puts on the American accent and pretends he's one of the hostages. And it's such a fantastic little performance, like sub-performance almost, by Alan Rickman to do Hans Gruber playing an American. It's hilarious.
I didn't like it. I thought it was forced.
Oh my god. Trying to have a serious discussion here, you asshole.
It's that, I mean, the ability of the audience to know something that the characters don't know, but still have a twist in the story of like John McClane not giving him the loaded gun.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just good writing. It's entertaining.
And as entertaining as it is, I really do think it is one of those has all those perfect moments throughout. Really, really well thought out script, almost a perfect script, I'd say. I don't know if I quite go there. I don't know if it's quite like Back to the Future level meticulous, but obviously when you have something so small scale like this kind of is, it allows you to play around with a lot of those elements and tell a really compact and well thought out story. But it's great. There's a lot of things that pop up earlier that come back later. We were talking about the whole relationship between Powell and McClane. Like, that works because of the actors, but it also works kind of because of the writing. They're both family men. They kind of have that understanding, even if they don't overtly say it to each other. Right. They both kind of understand that they want to be home for their kids for Christmas, kind of thing. Yeah,
and it's like even the building itself is iconic.
Yeah, exactly. Which is actually the old 20th Century Fox building, which is kind of cool. They just kind of shot it on the place. It's one of those. It's very, very iconic. When you see the building, you can at least I can spot out and go, that's Nakatomi Plaza.
Yeah, because the budget for this was like $28 million, which if you think about at the time. Still, that was fairly cheap.
Yeah.
Especially since it made $140 million worldwide.
Yeah, that's not a bad turnover at all. Well, obviously, it ended up getting the film, like we were talking about, the 4 sequels. Like it or not, you got them. They do exist. We can say that. And it's interesting, the idea, when Gruber comes into and takes the place over, and one of the head guys at the company asks, like, why do you want money? What kind of terrorists are you? Because they kind of present themselves as the terrorists, and they got the foreign accents and all that. But then Gruber just kind of says, what made you think we were terrorists? They're just there for the money. It's interesting. Yeah. It's a good play kind of on that. I don't know if it has anything to do with the whole element with all their accents. Maybe it's playing into sort of the fears of terrorism and all that. But then to have it just be just people who are looking to rob the place is.
Roger Ebert was one of the few critics to give it a negative review.
Oh, really? What did he say?
He said, well, the main reason is because...
Crazy old bastard.
He didn't like Dwayne Robinson, the chief. He said the character was unnecessary, useless, dumb, and prevented the movie from working.
Okay. Not entirely sure Ebert's right there, but then again, he has a lot of, opinions are opinions, right?
He said he later changed his opinion, probably because people gave him a hard time.
Yeah. Well, he did that frequently, which is interesting. Now there's an Ultimate Edition DVD that apparently it's like an extended cut. I don't know if I've seen that. Have you seen that? I don't know if it's on the Blue, but it says an Ultimate Edition DVD contains, or unless it's just containing deleted or extended scenes.
I don't even remember if the Blu-ray has there are like 1,000 Blu-ray releases.
Yeah.
The Blu-ray doesn't say anything about having deleted scenes. At least not the one that I have. It says it's 132
Weird.
minutes. I don't know how many fucking extra scenes there could be.
Maybe it was just deleted scenes and I read it wrong.
But
But
4K has anything different.
But have you ever heard of that? The director had it found it necessary to like cut away from Alan Rickman's face whenever he shot a
Yeah, because
bullet
he kept like
because he kept flinching. Yeah. He kept flinching every time with the noise and the flash. But apparently, there's still when he shoots one of the guys in the head, you can see it because he didn't I guess it cut from further away, so you can still see him flinch and all that. And I almost wonder if that adds a little bit to his character, that he doesn't necessarily love violence, but he's just like he winces because he doesn't want to look at it. He doesn't want to, but he has to do it, so he does it anyway.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And apparently that scene that we talked about earlier with the with Gruber and McClane meeting was unrehearsed as well, so that it felt more spontaneous, which definitely comes across in the film, obviously, when they were coming across. And there's a lot of ad-lib stuff, I guess, with the guy we were talking about earlier, Hart Bochner, ad-libbed a line that made Alan Rickman confused on screen, but that's because he wasn't sure how to react. It was the Hans Bubby.
Yeah.
But that's the fact that the screenplay was being tweaked constantly throughout the film, so they continued to just improvise things whenever they could to get around that unpredictability of the script.
Did you know that in Hungarian, the title is Give Your Life Expensive?
Give Your Life Expensive?
Yes. And then the sequel is Your Life is More Expensive. And the third movie is The Life is Always Expensive.
Jesus. It got more comprehensive after that.
It's interesting, too, about Alan Rickman flinching, is apparently, the firearms had to be modified to work with blanks. But McTiernan wanted exaggerated muzzle flashes, so they had to fabricate blanks to actually fire louder than normal. And so it was actually almost deafening, basically, when they would fire. And so it was...
Okay. That's interesting. So maybe he was just caught off guard by how loud those guns were.
Yeah, it's is this something he couldn't get over? Just because of how exaggerated it was.
All right, let's talk about some specific scenes.
Well, the whole scene with the really long table with the negotiation, and they just pop the guy in the head.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, you gonna work with us, or you're gonna die.
That cracks me up every time, even though it's kind of not funny.
There's a lot of dark humor to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, certainly, and it's gory as all hell.
Yeah, I mean that's 80s action.
Windows. Oh yeah.
Back in the good old days, where a cop could shoot somebody in the cock and show it.
Yeah. Oh, I love the scene where they're fighting on the table. He's fighting the one guy on the table. Mm-hmm. He's sliding around underneath it. And they're shooting up and down in between tables.
Yeah, I mean, there's
a lot of the action in this I find is really well coordinated, just for how close it is. I guess it's all very close quarters. I mean, there's the little fight that takes place in the staircase, and then the dude dies, I think, just by falling down the stairs and snapping his neck. He doesn't even get shot.
Yeah, it's the action choreography is really well done, and a lot of times it seems like
it's
in newer movies they can't seem to capture that as well. I mean, John Wick obviously does because of the training, but it has weight to it. The explosions, has weight.
All feels. Yeah, they feel real. When that entire floor blows up, you can actually understand it. You feel the impact of it.
The ho ho ho! I have I have the guns now, or whatever.
Yeah, now I have a machine gun. Ho ho ho!
Yeah,
which is hilarious. We got a little cowboy here, and I just love Gruber's attempt to almost be American in that regard with the films, with all the westerns, calling him John Wayne and saying you won't ride off into the sunset. Was it with Grace Kelly?
Because that's Gary Cooper,
right? Yeah. But it's interesting, right? Because you can kind of think about Hans as trying to almost be American, and he has a full-on American accent in that one scene, and it's done incredibly well. That's Rickman, but he's robbing a bank, and he's just trying to be like that, and he's toying with John. Again, calling him John Wayne and doing all that stuff. And that's playing with John's with John's type as well as his archetype and his persona. He's fighting back against that, but it's almost like he's trying to, or he is an Americanized character while still being that German bad guy.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting too, like Alan Rickman's character trying to figure out why John is so persistent. Like he has to have some sort of personal stake in it, and then figuring out about the wife and everything being there. And it's like that's just another tier. It's nice when characters have very clear, especially in a movie like this, characters have clear motivations as to why they're doing something. It's not like he was just a regular cop that snuck in and he was not listening to what everyone was saying. It's like he had a personal stake in it, and that's why he wouldn't wait for something that he knew wasn't going to solve the problem.
Yeah, exactly. And I like Holly as well. I feel like she's a very strong sort of female role within the mess of things. Something I think the 80s did a lot of with Alien and later in the Terminator films. Well, that was a little bit more into the 90s, but
Aliens.
Yeah, well, Alien was in the 70s, Gary.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like Alien. She eventually came to that point, but in Aliens, she was like a badass through the whole thing.
Yeah, she's a badass throughout the. Yeah,
like James Cameron.
Yeah, exactly. It's James Cameron for you.
We'll have to do those movies at some point too.
Which ones? Aliens?
No.
Gladly, anytime. I just watched Aliens recently.
Look at you.
It was quite good. Oh yeah, high roller over here. But it's one of those things that every character in this movie I think just works as intended perfectly. We already talked about Hans and John and Powell and all their respective roles, but like even the two Johnsons coming in and giving everybody a hard time, kind of like that the bureaucratic pinball game, bouncing everybody around and confusing everybody even with their names, coming in try to take things over but almost just make things worse.
If only there was a TV show about an FBI that would have to work with the local police.
Every fucking time. I can't escape it. It's every single, like, I like Twin Peaks and I like David Lynch, and it's every damn episode comes out of nowhere, and all he doesn't even, that was the most probably disconnected one to the other that he ever had. He just brought it up. It didn't have anything. At least last episode, it made a little bit of sense when he brought it up. Not this time. This time, all I had to do was mention a couple of FBI agents, and he just like, oh yeah, Twin Peaks. Agent Cooper works with the FBI too. He is the FBI. He works with local police, like in Die Hard. Remember that? Every time, it's every episode, and I feel like we should have a counter. How long does it take? How many minutes until the Twin Peaks reference comes out? Because like it's every time.
Did you know that Sam Neill turned down the role of Hans Gruber?
Oh my gosh! See, that would have been crazy. Could you? I can't imagine him at all in that role. I can't imagine anybody but Rickman in that role, but I really can't imagine Sam Neill.
I think he would be Russian.
Oh, still though.
No, it's because
I just can't see him. I just can't see Alan Grant.
Yeah, but Hunt for Red October, he was in a John McTiernan movie.
I guess so, but
in Montana.
No, Alan Rickman only. Well, what do you think of jumping gears? And then Jeremy Irons later plays his brother.
Yeah, I mean that was fine. To me, this is a one movie concept.
Yeah. Now I do think Die Hard with a Vengeance is the closest that any of the sequels come to being this one. But
you're not a scientist with a gray hair, are you?
No. Body. And then there's, of course, all the iconic scenes of John climbing through the ventilation systems and down the elevator shafts and all that. Just him maneuvering through the entire building, like when he's crawling through the vents with his lighter out. It's amazing. Like that's such an iconic shot to me.
Yeah.
And it's been parodied in so much. Like even in Sunny even has an episode where Frank's crawling through the vents in a wife beater and then he pulls out the lighter. It's great. It's one of those movies that just leaves a massive impact on cinema.
And it makes you question how big the air vents actually are in buildings.
Yeah. I don't know many air vents that you could crawl all the way through like that.
No, and the sound. I mean, if you've ever, you could hear that through the whole fucking building.
Now, can you imagine they just shot him? Well, it's like, hey, somebody's in the air vent. Pfft, done.
That was in a movie. I watched that in a movie where someone decided they were going to sneak into the bad guy's thing in an air vent And as soon as they were up there, one of the guys says, "Hey, there's something moving in the air vent," and they shot it, and the guy dies, and the blood comes through. And they're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that's done." It was hilarious. I don't remember what movie that was.
That's interesting. Well, could you imagine if that happened in this movie? That's what I'm saying. And then it's like, all right, that's it. Over. The end.
Oh, so it like pulls a psycho and the main guy is like out after.
Yeah.
That would be really.
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be cool, actually.
Or even pull an alien. And,
I would love for that
the
to be
protagonist
in a sequel. Or
set it up like a reboot. Set it up with like a new John McClane character. And then he gets killed like 40 minutes in or even earlier.
I think.
And then the Holly McClane character has to save the day.
It would be funny to have a movie, like have Bruce Willis in the movie and have him like at the party and something happens and he escapes and goes out and he's in there like he's going to do the whole Die Hard thing and they just shoot and kill him and that's the end of it.
Yeah, just like a little one-off gag.
Yeah.
We already know that the comedy format does not work with the Die Hard franchise, let me tell you.
No, I mean,
or
comedy
the Die Hard
format
style of film
doesn't work with anything. Well, remember we had to watch that one stupid movie that was like,
that's what I was talking about.
What was that called?
So back in the day,
Shithead
by that I mean a few months
Buttface?
ago, it was called Game Over Man,
yeah.
which was a recent Netflix film by the Workaholics guys. We were going to do it for an episode of Films from the Basement, a podcast we were on when it was still running. I don't know exactly the state of it now, but we watched the movie and then we ended up not casting on it, and it was a terrible, terrible movie. It was not funny at all, but it was just stupid. But it was the Die Hard format and style, and it was obviously an homage to, but with just excessive gross out humor, and it just did not work. Could you imagine if Bruce Willis was in that movie and they shot him in the face? Would have got an extra star from me. That would have brought his grand total up to 2 stars.
I would have brought the grand total up to 1 star. I don't like how the sequels like throw away the progress made in this movie, though. Like in the very next movie, it's like he's separated from his wife.
Yeah, I know.
Which seemed like,
but maybe that's a reflective state of like, just because you saved the day and saved my life doesn't automatically fix all of our marital. How would it?
No, I understand that, but I mean, it's like now he has a new outlook on why, like what he was willing to give up for the woman he loved.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but she didn't give a shit. Fuck him.
Yeah.
You want to talk about sequels throwing away stuff? We could talk about a Good Day to Die Hard, which just throws away everything it means to everything that makes a Die Hard film a Die Hard film.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Last Jedi.
We're not going to have that discussion today. Maybe that's another episode. An episode for another day. We've been meaning to do a film that is like a debatable one that you either dislike and I like, or vice versa. Did you hear that? Or vice versa.
Yeah, I was like, that's not a term.
And I think that I think that might be a good one, although it's been debated to death, though. But
unlike all the movies we do
yeah.
that haven't been talked about at all.
No, exactly. Nobody talks about Die Hard ever in the history of the world. And nobody remembers this movie.
Especially during Christmas.
Here's a fun fact. A full 18 minutes elapsed before the film's first gunshot. Could you imagine Don Johnson in the role of John McClane?
I like Don Johnson.
So you could. Could you imagine Michael Madsen?
Gosh. No, he'd be coked out too much. Michael Madsen is really good as a secondary character, not as a lead.
Yeah. He would have been like, I'm going to go to the coast.
Man, we
get together, have a few laughs.
We need to watch Brawl and Cell Block 99.
You want to do that one next?
I would love to watch that one again.
Sure, let's do it. Next up. Did we just kill the digital drive-in? Wrap up already happening? All of a sudden, we're talking about what the next movie is going to be. Could you imagine Al Pacino as John McClane?
She had a great ass.
Oh man, it would be hilarious. It would have been so hilarious that it would have made me go out to the coast and get together and have a few laughs.
How about Sheriff Buford T. Justice as John McClane?
Oh my god. Could you imagine the conversation on the radio between him and Gruber?
That would be hilarious. Oh, Hans Gruber could be Burt Reynolds.
Oh my god. I mean, the other way around would be perfect, wouldn't it?
It would.
It would almost work just as well. Smokey and the Bandit is almost just Highway Die Hard. Oh my gosh.
Smokey and the Gruber.
Eastbound and down. Loading up and trupping. Coming out to the coast and having a few laughs.
Whoa, Hans is in the tower. He's going to steal some cash.
Watch old Hansi run.
He's going to have to dash.
You got any other memorable scenes for this one? What do you think?
Well, I mean, it's like there's a lot of great fight choreography. It's the guy on the phone acting like Hans is going to kill him, trying to plead to find out where the detonators are, and then Hans killing him anyway. It's fucking hilarious.
I think honestly, and obviously this is what we like to do on this podcast, but this is one of those movies to me that is just so incredibly perfect, and
you just have to recount.
It's entertaining. Yeah, exactly. It's entertainingly rewatchable every single time. It's immensely enjoyable. I mean, I watch it at least once a year. I do watch it every Christmas. Sometimes I'll pop it in and watch it some other time throughout the year. But it's one of those movies like up there with a Raiders of the Lost Ark and a Back to the Future and Hot Fuzz, which I know is high praise for me. But it's one of those movies I think that is just so constantly. It's one of those constant roundings for me that I can always go back to and always enjoy. And I mean, sequels aside, because I don't really necessarily love any of the sequels. I do really, really like With a Vengeance, but I don't like any of the other ones all too much. But I think Die Hard is one of those rare cases in cinema of absolutely everything coming together perfectly or relatively perfectly to make something that's, greater than the sum of its parts.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's a little cliche to say, but it really is, all of the casting is on point, but because all of the casting is on point, the chemistry between each character and each actor is on point. Something you wouldn't have if you took any of those actors out and replaced them with literally anybody else. It might break the movie. The plot is excellent. Like we were talking about, the action is rough and brutal and intimate and close quarters. And Skeletons by Stevie Wonder is in it, and it's a great song. And just the whole movie as a whole, like I said, one of those rare cases where I can't get enough of it. I gotta go back. I gotta watch it again. Gotta go down to the coast. Gotta have a few laughs. Know what I'm saying?
I do know what you're saying. I think it's, especially for 80s action movies, is one of the perfect examples of it. The fact that John McTiernan, his trilogy of Predator, Die Hard, and Hunt for Red October is probably one of the 3 back-to-back greatest movie trilogies there is for directors. And he did direct With a Vengeance too, so that's probably why it feels the most like a Die Hard.
That's probably why it's one of the best, or the best sequel, is because of that. Yeah,
it's just I can't think of anything I would cut out of the film. You can sit down and watch the whole thing. I think it's one of those things where, now I don't have cable, but back in the day when I would just like flip through channels, if this was one of the movies that was on, regardless of where it was in the film, I would watch it until it was over.
Yeah. It does join the ranks, I think, of for me, of absolutely perfect movies.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you necessarily love it that much.
No, I would.
Yeah,
so especially like if you're talking about like popcorn films, I would definitely put it in that.
Oh yeah. So what we've done so far on the drive-in, if we can have we should start something new. Starting something new right here, right now. Episode 9 is where we're starting it. You hear me? I said, you fucking hear me, Garrett? You fucking hear me? Son of a bitch. You fucking hear me, bitch?
Yeah.
Look at me when I'm talking to you, you son of a bitch.
Are you done?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're going to start something new. It's called Perfect Movies, the Perfect Movie List. And now as I'm looking at the episodes we've done already, pretty much none of them aren't. Maybe the exception of Casino Royale isn't exactly perfect. It's relatively close, but I mean, this is up there, I think, with Raiders and Shining and Back to the Future, Fury Road, Mandy, Django Unchained as being one of those like rare cases of film on Blazing Saddles. That's not on my list here. It's just the best. It's one of the best examples of its genre.
Sure.
And of its element. And it's, like I said, absolutely one of those films that you can break out whenever and enjoy the absolute hell out of it. You know, sometimes you need a little bit of that in your life. You just need something to just sit back and kick back and enjoy.
I agree.
I'm glad you agree.
Kablammy.
Well, you think that's going to do it for today's Christmas-themed holiday special episode, the Digital Drive-In?
Mm-hmm.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you just done talking to me now, you son of a bitch? Is that why? You just want me out of here?
I was thinking of telling everyone if they haven't seen Roma to watch it on Netflix.
That's true. We did just watch Roma, and by the time this goes live, my review of Roma should have gone live on a website called thenerdmentality.com. You can go and check it out there. It's part of my foray series that I used to do that I picked back up specifically for this film, even though I long left that shit in the dirt. This film is so incredibly good, Roma by Alfonso Cuarón, that I had to bring this back up. I had to talk about it in some way, and it's one of those great movies and one of the best of the year. I derailed you. Anything you want to say about Roma there?
No, I completely disagree with everything you stated.
Okay, well, do you want to say anything about Roma though? You want to just do like a one-liner? Not a one-liner, but
it's okay. It's one of those.
It's okay.
It's one of those movies that I was hoping that Alfonso would have done previous to this, because I've always liked his cinematography, but I've hated the characters of the story and thought that the depth at which they worked didn't work for me. I always had issues.
Yeah.
I mean, in some cases, he's sort of like a Zack Snyder in the fact that, like, his eye for cinematography and for how characters should move within that, how the camera should move, is pristine,
impeccable.
Yeah, and it's like visual. The way that he can tell you the story visually, he's phenomenal at. But he's never picked something that spoke to me. But Roma is very much so a personable story to him. It's something extremely important to him, and it's something that's like revelationary and foundationary and like a part of him. And so it was a passion project, and like all of that came through. And so
it shows in spades.
Yeah, so because of that subjectivity and because it was everything that like he had personal experience, it wasn't just a story that he thought would be fun to tell. It was a story he felt like he needed to tell and was part of his essence. And that came through. And that's all the stuff I love about film. And so in that aspect, it is classic in the sense of no one else could tell this story because it's his story. And it's the same kind of thing that Criterion or one of the other boutique Blu-ray labels would put out as being like, this is a film hardly anyone has seen, but it's very much a story that needs to be told. Here it is presented to you. And so it was awesome that Netflix decided to put that up on their service.
Yeah, it's very, very much one of those rare films that uses the medium to its absolute maximum potential to tell a story. And I think that it's deeply emotional and intimate work that I think everybody should watch. And even if you find it slow in the first half hour, you will. It's wholly intentional because by the end of it, you are so ingrained in that life and in that character that you feel for whatever happens in it. That's our little plug for Roma, which will probably win Best Picture. So
yeah. Or probably won't because it actually is one of the best movies.
Yeah, it might not.
Yeah.
I could see him getting like, he'll win cinematography, he'll win director, he'll win maybe editor, he'll win a bunch of them, and then they'll give Best Picture to something else because it kind of spreads the love. I know they did that with La La Land, and they did that with
well, that's what's,
I guess to a lesser extent, with Gravity.
But to me,
Cuarón won a lot of Oscars for Gravity.
That's the thing.
Win Best Picture.
He's already won a lot of Oscars, and to me, this almost feels like this year's Lady Bird, where it's very much so a personal movie, but it might not necessarily, in the eyes of the Oscar voters, might not necessarily jump out of that.
Maybe. I mean, it is taking the world by storm right now.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people talking about it online. A lot of Oscar voters, at least. So I think it's a lock for foreign film. I can't see much taking that. I would honestly think it's a lock for cinematography. And maybe if he doesn't win much else from there, like he should win director for this. I think it's one of the best directed movies of the year. But who knows?
I'm trying to think. Who won cinematography last year for the Oscar?
Last year was Roger Deakins for
Blade Runner.
For Blade Runner, yeah.
And see, that was really good, but I actually think Phantom Thread had better cinematography.
Right. I think at that point it was like gifting Deakins it though.
Yeah.
It was like a Leonardo DiCaprio retroactive Oscar.
So was it even
But who knows?
No, I don't want to go to Deakins. I want to go to best cinematography.
Phantom Thread was nominated for cinematography.
Okay. And see, that was one that Paul Thomas Anderson didn't actually have a cinematographer for, so he did it, and a couple other people behind the scenes worked with him. And so I'm wondering if because Alfonso he wasn't able to get his typical cinematographer with him, so he decided to do it so that it kind of even looks a little bit different than his other films. So I don't know if they will appreciate that, or if because it's not an actual cinematographer that has done that before, if they'll feel the need to give him an award for that.
Yeah, who knows? It'll be interesting. Like I would hope so, because it's impeccable cinematography. It really is. It really enhances and tells the whole story maximum. But
right,
I mean, I guess we'll see when February rolls around. This ain't the Roma cast, unfortunately, as much as it could be. And but definitely, I would say go ahead and check out Netflix's Roma. Obviously free to stream if you have a Netflix subscription.
Because we haven't seen The Favorite yet. It could have better cinematography.
That is true, and I'm really wanting to see that as well. One of my favorite modern directors is Yorgos Lanthimos. Very much looking forward to seeing that one, and we'll hopefully good luck to Roma as the award season rolls around, because even if it doesn't win it, it sure deserves it. So in terms of the digital drive-in, though, that's it for this week's episode.
Bye.
Next week, as alluded to earlier. Yeah, bye. See ya. As alluded to earlier, we will be, I guess the next film we'll be watching, I suppose, will be, what's the director's name? We'll be watching Cell and Brawl Block 41. We'll be watching Brawl and Cell Block 99.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll do it.
Do you even have it?
By Craig S. Zoller. I will rent it. This is one of something else we've been looking at doing. We want to do a debate episode of some kind, and we want to do an episode because as all the movies so far have been, with the exception of Mandy, which I think what neither of us had seen before we decided to cast it, or you had seen, recommended, then we casted it. This is something that you have seen long ago. I have not seen at all, and we're going to go into it and hopefully I like it. Otherwise, this will be both the debate episode and the one has seen and one has not seen episode. But I do very much enjoy Bone Tomahawk, which is Zoller's other film. So I'm hoping for the best on this one.
It's terrible. I can't wait to make fun of it.
Rip it to shreds. And then in the pipeline as well, if you do follow us on Twitter at @digital_podcast, you may already know that we're working on a Red Dead Redemption 2 special, which will not be a numbered episode, but just be a special where we talk about one of the greatest games of this generation.
Never heard of it.
Spoiler alert, I already spoiled it. That we like it. Well, we also alluded to it with Django Unchained, so you should guess if it's been 2 or 3 months by now that we've been pretty absorbed into it. But we have that in the pipeline, and we hope to get that out before the end of the year. If not, to start the new year off with a bang. That's it. That's all. You can follow us on Twitter. I am at Alex's Reviews. Garrett is at Garrett Donardo. You can, of course, like I said, follow Digital Drive-In at @digital_podcast. And we'll catch you next time.
Meow.
Say bye, Garrett.
Bye, Garrett.
No, that's such a bad joke.